Yo guys, what is going on? Blossom's back and welcome back to their episode of Top Drives and what I hope is a very interesting series, an informational series as well, that I know a lot of you guys enjoy watching on the channel, and then it's going to be overrated or overpowered. I gave this about a month because I really wanted all the times to show up on Top Drives records. It would be a bit awkward if I made this series a bit too early into the update and there weren't going to be any times for any of these cars because no one has pulled them and no one has actually added the times on the website. Yada yada yada. But yes, welcome to overrated or overpowered. This is going to be a little different from the tier list series where I talk about overrated, underrated, or rightly rated. It's not the same series. This one's going to be slightly different, so I'm going to show you how it works. With every brand new update, there are always those cars that people are going to be like, oh yeah dude, that car is going to break the meta. Yeah dude, that car is going to be overpowered. There ain't no way that's an RQ29. Like, look at the handling and that kind of thing, you know what I mean? There's always going to be that car where on paper, it just looks so much better than maybe it might actually perform in the game. So today, it's kind of like a myth buster episode. We're going to debunk if some of the most hyped up cars from PL20 are actually worth the hype. So how it's going to work is we're going to start off with our first guinea pig over here, the Mazda Roadster NRA. Now, this car has high reputations or high expectations because for an RQ29, it has 83 handling, making it one of the best handling cars for the uncommon range in Top Drives. So how it's going to work is that I'm going to be showing you all the times compared to its competition, and at the end we will see whether the car is overrated, average, or blossom choice, or somewhere in between. So I hope you guys get it. I hope you enjoy the series. This is maybe a part one of many different parts to come. So we only have a couple of cars in today's episode, okay? So we're going to start off with the Mazda Roadster NRA. Let's really dive deep into how good this car actually is. So obviously when you think of handling, you would expect it to perform on twisty track sets, and as you can see, it does. It turns out that it is the best car for car park, G-force, indoor karting, karting circuit, slalom, twisty circuit, twisty road, and literally the introduction of the Roadster NRA has basically made the Lotus Europa 47 obsolete. So it's a bit of a shame. That's definitely, the Lotus is definitely not going to be Blossom choice anymore. And it's sad. We see an end of an era. The Mazda Roadster NRA is just that good. Shout out to the Saturn Sky though. It's still holding that super impressive hairpin road time. It was the best hairpin road car for a year now, actually, because World Expo has been around for a year, so that is really, really impressive. But that's not all. If we move on to the rolling track sets, as you can see, the Roadster is still the best car for rolling G-force, rolling slalom, rolling twisty circuit, Monaco G-force, Monaco narrow streets, and Monaco twisty road. The Saturn Sky again is also pretty useful as a hybrid twisty car, coming in as the best car for Monaco hairpin, Monaco streets long, mountain hairpin, yada yada yada. But that's the thing that we need to look at. I mean, not only do we know that the Roadster is worth the hype, but the Lotus Europa 47 truly isn't the car to use anymore, which is a bit of a shame. Another thing that we can look at from the times over here is that the Mazda MX-5 is a piece of shit. Like, what is this? For an RQ29, it has so many red times. You go back to the last photo, it's like one of the worst cars with the hairpin, the indoor karting, the karting circuit, the why is it an RQ29? It doesn't make any sense at all. Also, shout out Holden Monaro, still the best car for the fast circuit, at least within the comparison. So, now that we've seen the times, as you can see, the Roadster NRA is the best in car park, G-force, everything that I basically just said, and it definitely is worth the hype. So I'm going to give it a rating of Blossom Choice. Do expect it in the next Blossom Choice review. Now, moving on to the next car that I want to kind of shine under the light or the telescope is going to be, or the microscope actually, is the Mazda Atenza Sport Wagon. Now, why the hype around the car? Again, the same handling as the Roadster that we just saw. So it's the joint second, like, highest top handling uncommon car with 83. Not only does it have 83 handling, it also has medium ground clearance, which is incredible. On paper, it's incredible. Medium ground clearance and 83 handling. But let's see how it actually is against its comparison. So over here, as you can see, I'm comparing it on the city streets, small and medium, as well as all the twisty circuits. And the main competitor for the Atenza is the Nissan Leaf Nismo. The Nissan Leaf is this juggernaut of a car that not only is capable of destroying any uncommon in sight, but also beating rares. So main things that, you know, the Mazda wants to beat are going to be the Nissan Leaf, and it does beat the Nissan Leaf in the car park, in the G-force, the slalom, and the twisty circuit. However, where it really matters for these cars are the city streets, and it doesn't win any. The best medium car still belongs to the Leaf Nismo, and the best city street small car now belongs to the Mitsubishi AMG, the 4-banger, I believe, that's in that car. Also the best car for Canyon Tour. So that is one car which I think went under a lot of people's radars. Definitely mine as well. I didn't think that the AMG was going to be that much of, you know, a dominant car in PL20. But, you know, being the best car for city street small, that's all you need, man. That's all you need to get those sights on you. Moving on now, I'm also doing like the other thing with the rolling tracks. As you can see, the Atenza is still the best medium ground clearance uncommon for the rolling G-force, slalom, and twisty, and it still trades blows with the Nissan Leaf, with the AMG Galant being the best for the Monaco streets. Now, there is an issue with the Mazda Atenza Sport Wagon though, because it fails to win the city street small or medium, but it is capable of beating the Leaf Nismo on like slalom and car park, which is cool. But do you really want to put a medium ground clearance car on a slalom or a car park when you can just use, for example, a Mazda Roadster NRA? That's the thing to think about, and I do think about these things, and that's why I'm not rating the Atenza as, you know, an incredibly high Blossom choice. I'm gonna put it in between average and Blossom choice, more skewed towards Blossom choice though. It's still very, very good, but it's not that dominant force many of us thought it was going to be. Still best in car park and G-force and all that kind of stuff within its niche. Moving on, next big boy that we're going to talk about is the Barbie car, the Mitsubishi Pajero Field Guard. This thing is the definition of dominant. So moving on, as you can see, in the snow and in the sand, it is the best car everywhere besides Ocean Beach Slalom. That makes sense because half of Ocean Beach Slalom is literally just asphalt, but everything else, the Pajero is king. I'm comparing it against other off-road uncommons and some of the best all-surface tire uncommons as well. Moving on to dirt, again, it's the same scenario. The only one that it doesn't win is a rallycross small circuit, where the Holden Suburban is the best option to use. So this is a bit of a no-brainer, guys. The Pajero Field Guard is a Blossom choice. It is the most Blossom choice car as it can get. It is the uncommon off-road meta. It is the definition of that. It is ridiculous. I would like to get 5 of these maxed out in my garage ASAP before it moves up to rare, like every other broken uncommon off-roader. Literally, think about it. The Land Rover Discovery used to be uncommon, broke the meta, went up to rare. Same thing with the Datsun, right, from JPT, used to be uncommon, broke the meta, went up to rare, etc., etc. This might be next. Anyway, moving on. Another car is the Mazda Miata M Coupe. Now this is a pretty interesting one because I'm not going to be like rating it in the same way as the NRA, you know, obviously, like I'm not going to put it up against RQ29s. So over here, as you can see, I'm comparing it with RQ27s, 26s, and I gotta say, yeah, best car for car park, best car for slalom, that's all impressive and all, but the real takeaway here is that RQ26 Mitsubishi Starion GSR being the best car for hairpin, karting circuit, joint twisty and joint twisty road, twisty circuit and twisty road, which is really impressive because it's an RQ26 and it's able to beat RQ27s. But the 25 Miata as well, be capable of beating 27s in the car park and the slalom, so that's always pretty cool. So I do think it's pretty good value, you know, for an RQ25 mid-range uncommon. Moving on, as you can see, it's still the best car for the rolling G-force and the rolling slalom, so it looks pretty decent. So I would say it's best in the hyper twisty mid-range RQ. I would say for a mid-range uncommon, if you're not going to compare it against your RQ29s and your RQ28s, you know, around that range of 24 to 27 or 24 to 26, that mid-range area for the rarity, the Mazda Miata M Coupe is one of your best options to use. That being said though, I don't think it's enough for it to be blossom choice, but it definitely is above average, so that's my rating. I think it's a good car, but I don't think it's among the best. Moving on now to the rares, we're gonna start with the Mazdaspeed MX-5 Miata. Now this one, a lot of Mazdas really that people think are gonna break the meta, or at least I think it will break the meta. This car is really strong on paper, and it actually rivals the Dodge Demon. So let's look at the times, and honestly this came as a massive surprise to me. As you can see, the MX-5 Miata actually doesn't win anything, which is very surprising. Best options for Monaco Hairpin, Monaco Streets Long include the A-Bar for 1000. The Opel GT wins things like the rolling slalom and the rolling G-force. So your Opel GT is your hyper twisty car. The MX-5 isn't that, somewhere in between. It's kind of like your Demon Roadster, but your Demon Roadster is still the better twisty circuit car. So moving on to our next comparison with the standing races, as you can see, again, a little bit disappointing to see, but the MX-5 Miata actually doesn't win anything. I thought it would be really, really strong. It doesn't win anything. And actually, the Demon Roadster only winning twisty circuit now. And really, the cars that you should be taking note of would be the Opel Manta, which is the best car for G-Force, indoor karting, and slalom. Opel GT, best car for the car park. The Elan, which is the best car for the karting circuit and the twisty road. And of course, the A-Bar, which is the best car for the hairpin road and the Canyon Tour. So that's a lot to think about. That the Mazda actually isn't, among the best. And obviously with the BBR, that's RQ38 now on the bottom, it got a nerf, and it just isn't that good anymore. Actually, it's one of the worst performers here in the list. So I'm a little bit ashamed. I'm a bit sad. I thought that this car would end up being, a guaranteed blossom choice. I still think it's really good. And as you can see over here, I think it's the best in getting second place. But unfortunately, it doesn't win anything. Moving on now, another car which I think a lot of people have high expectations for is the Hyundai Prophecy. Medium ground clearance, really, really good handling as well. So let's see how well it performs. So over here, as you can see, the Prophecy looking pretty good. It's an RQ37. And it remains competitive with RQ39s, being the best car for the car park, being the best car for the G-Force, best car for the karting circuit, best car for the twisty road. That is very, very impressive compared to other medium ground clearance rare cars, right, that are front wheel drive or rear wheel drive. Some of the things to take into account are, the Continental being the best for the fast circuit, etc., etc. But there is one thing that is let me address the elephant in the room, right? It's the Dodge Hornet. I did not add the times for the Dodge Hornet because the moment you add the times of the Dodge Hornet, it wins everything. So I kind of wanted to highlight the other cars that will be second in other places like the Polo and the Focus, but the moment you add the Hornet, it's the best car there. So moving on to the next comparison, again, this is going to be, I basically said, all right, don't count RQ39s, we'll talk about 38s, 37s, and as you can see, the Prophecy is very strong. Best car for medium, car park, G-Force, karting circuit, twisty road. So when you take away the Hornet, when you take away those RQ39s, the Prophecy is able of hitting above its weight, competing against the RQ38s. And another car to highlight is that Hyundai Veloster Turbo, which is crap. RQ38 doesn't win anything. And one more thing, obviously I don't want to just completely censor the Hornet. We're going to compare it against the Hornet, and as you can see, the Hornet wins everything, right? So the Hyundai Prophecy still is able to beat the Hornet on the car park and the twisty circuit, but that's going to be it. So at the end of the day, the Prophecy is a very good car against the best of the best. The Dodge Hornet literally is the blossom choice. It is still able to win on the car park and the twisty circuit, which is very impressive. Also wins on Monaco Hairpin and twisty circuit rolling. You take away the Hornet, and the Prophecy actually is a very, very competitive medium ground clearance car. So I'm going to put it in blossom choice. Not super high blossom choice, but I'm definitely going to consider it for the next blossom choice class. Moving on now, the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution. Now this one's very, very impressive. So again, I'm comparing the Mitsubishi against all medium ground clearance four-wheel drive ultra rares, and it blows 64s out of the water. Remember guys, the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution is RQ61. It's beating those crappy Audis, it's beating those crappy Subarus, it's besting the Mercedes R63, the Subaru WRX, and even its predecessor, the Mitsubishi Lancer GSR. It is incredible. For a four-drive medium ground clearance car, is really, really strong and wins most of the twisty stuff. Now, this is what I thought. Four-wheel drive medium ground clearance too easy of a competition. You're competing against Audis and Subarus, literally some of the worst cars in the game. So let's be a little bit more competitive. Let me compare the Lancer Evolution outside of its niche. Let me compare it against four-wheel drive low ground clearance cars. Let me compare it against low ground clearance rear wheel drive cars, right? And remember, again, the Lancer Evolution is medium. It's four-wheel drive. And even against, in the dry conditions, even against rear wheel drive, low ground clearance cars, it still is the best car for the slalom, the G-force, and the car park. And it's still highly competitive on indoor karting and karting circuit as well. That is ridiculously competitive. Look at this, guys. I'm comparing this against the Pontiac G8 GXP, the Mercedes-Benz AMG S65, the BMW M2 35i, among other things. It is very, very impressive. So, it is really, really good. I'm going to give it a high Blossom choice once again. It is very, very versatile. It's great on twisty track sets against any car in that saloon niche, but on top of that, it's medium, it's four-wheel drive. It's kind of like the return of the Mitsubishi Evo 4, you know? So very, very impressive. Okay, moving on, another one, the Mazda MX-5 Cup, your 100 handling ultra rare, you know? Let's see if it's actually worth the hype. No. Against the almighty Dodge Circuit EV, it fails to hold a candle. It isn't the best car anywhere. The Jetta G40 is the best car for the car park, and everything else is traded with the Ariel Atom 1 as well as the Dodge Circuit EV. The Lotus Elise Sport, still the best car for indoor karting as well. That being said though, you take away all these heavy hitters and you just compare it against Japan, and then you can see the MX-5 is not that bad. It's the best car for the slalom, and I'm comparing it against an RQ64 Honda NSX-R, 14 RQ more. And it remains competitive on car park and G-force as well. I mean, it beats a lot of the lower RQ Japanese crap like the RX-7s. I can't believe I call it an RX-7 crap because I love that car. You know, the Nissan Micra and the Suzuki Ignis and the Civic Type R. So it is strong in its own niche of Japan. But when you blow it open and you put it up against all the Blossom Choice heavy hitters like the Dodge Circuit EV, it isn't that good. So, in my opinion, it's average. I think it's okay. I think so. Oh, there's one more comparison actually. This one's against the rolling stuff, and as you can see, the Dodge Circuit EV is still the best car there. So, in my opinion, I think that the MX-5 is average. I don't think it's overpowered. I don't think it's overrated. I think it's all right. Now, one more car before we end it off. It's going to be an Epic, the Buford CS Prototype. Again, 100 handlings at a lower 0 to 60 compared to a Zenith. And on paper, it actually has better stats than a Zenith. So is it better than a Zenith? That's the question. Okay, so let's check it out. As you can see over here, among Epics, it is able to beat cars like the Ford Mustang SVT Cobra and the Boxster and the super twisty stuff like the car park and the G-force, and it's a really good car in the karting circuit. That being said though, the Zenith is still the better car, and the issue is weight. And I know people are going to say, oh Blossom, well the CS Prototype actually is a hybrid car, you shouldn't be comparing it to a Zenith E10. Is it really a hybrid car though? Is it really a hybrid car though? The CS Prototype has 62 MRA. Is that hybrid material? No, it isn't. So yes, I am going to compare it to a Zenith. Yes, I am going to compare it to a Lotus Elise Cup, and it's only the best for a karting circuit. That's it. That's it. And honestly, it's so much more expensive to upgrade. You would think for that bigger investment that you would get better performance, but you really don't. Moving on to the next comparison, as you can see, again, no times for the Buford, but I think it's safe to assume that it might be able to beat the Zenith in terms of the hybrid stuff like the Monaco hairpin and the Monaco narrow streets and the Monaco streets long. I think it'll be able to beat the Zenith in those scenarios, but I don't think it'll be able to beat the Ford Mustang SVT, which has way better MRA. So again, it's kind of in the middle there, not the best, not the worst. Doesn't really win much, really. I think the only comparison we saw it win was the karting circuit. There you go. So yeah, that's the thing, man. So in my opinion, I think it's a little bit overrated. I'm better off just maxing out an ultra rare, you know what I mean? Just get yourself a Zenith, or even better, I didn't even put it in the comparison because it would be too dominant, the Peugeot Maxi. So anyway guys, that's gonna be it. We got 9 cars up in here. Let me know down in the comments below if you like this style of video or not. If you want to see a part 2, I might think add cars like the Mitsubishi Triton and maybe some other Mazdas as well, and maybe some of the legendaries too. But anyway guys, let me know down in the comments below if you found it helpful. That's gonna be it for for today. I'm going to stay safe, wash your hands, and blossom out. Peace.
Bro, this song just makes me so happy.
Me too.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Sit back, relax in my Bonneville Pontiac. Hold tight all night, cruise to Jacksonville
Atlantic.
Blonde hair, don't care, look like Leslie Brooks. Pin up girls